Most people do not progress in a foreign language, not because they're not capable or because they don't have the tools at their disposal, but because they don't know how to be bored. Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Giroux. I'm a teacher. I went from knowing absolutely no French to in under 3 years passing the C1 DAF exam, which means I can now go study at university over there, work over there. And I now tutor others and teach them how to make significant language gains in a short period of time. And so I'm making this video for my advanced learners. So what I am presuming about what you know is that you know all of the grammar that is encompassed in a language. So this is specifically for my French students, but this could apply for any language, but you are extremely comfortable with the grammar, which means most things that you see out in the wild world of that foreign language do not throw you off. You understand it grammatically, and maybe you still need to just advance in things like vocabulary, slang, phrases, things of that nature, culture, etc. So here we go. This is a daily routine for advanced learners of a foreign language to make substantial gains in 6 to 12 months. So this is what I do. This is what I continue to do with the foreign languages I study. And first, what you need to do, as when we're talking about preparing materials, is ask yourself, what am I doing with the foreign language that I am acquiring? Am I using it to discuss in casual settings with my friends? Am I using it to discuss philosophy? Am I using it in a certain field for my career, etc.? You need to ask yourself that question because that's going to help you narrow the field of potential podcasts that you can use for this exercise. So, for example, let's say you're a chef. I don't know. You would want to find native French podcasts that discuss cooking and cuisine. So, find that relevant podcast for you. I would recommend obviously be native, so they're native speakers, and it also have be heavy on dialogue because that's going to be very helpful for both for your listening comprehension and your ability to communicate with others. So this is your three-step process for um, preparing the materials. Now, the first thing you need to do, I'm assuming you can see the screen right now, but is go to a website, whatever website you're going to use. I use Le Monde frequently because it talks about politics. They're 20 minutes, right? That sort of thing, not too long. And so I will take one of these podcasts, go to this website, 11labs.io. Obviously, don't break any copyright laws or anything, but turn one of these podcasts into an MP3 transcript, right? Or you can listen to it on the app if you have a Spotify or something like that. But that MP3 file is going to be important. So take it and upload the file into the AI text to speech to text tool, and it will churn out a uh, transcript for you in the language you're targeting. So perhaps you're learning Russian, perhaps you're learning Italian, French. This can do this for you. And then the next thing, I want you to take that French transcript and go to DeepL, which is another language AI tool, and you can translate it from that language into English and turn it into a PDF. So boom, we've got all three resources that I am requiring of you for this exercise. You have the MP3 file, excuse me. You have the French transcript or Russian transcript or whatever it is, and you have the English transcript. Those are the three things we need. Now, that's phase one. Phase two is where we actually, sorry, step two is where we actually get into the studying itself. And this step of studying has four phases. Okay. So the phase one of comprehension is that you are going to listen, 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 listen. And I would recommend if it's like a 20-minute podcast, you should be listening in no more than 3 to 4 minute increments, if that. Okay. So for each four of these phases, you're only using it for about 4 minutes of audio, if that. I mean, you can even make it more narrow than that, 2 minutes, whatever. I want you to listen to it 5 to 10 times or Could be even double, triple that. But basically, whenever you feel like you're spinning wheels, in other words, you have reached the maximum level of comprehension as possible. Now, don't be discouraged at this phase because you might only be getting 10 or 20% of what you're listening to, but you should be actively trying to understand what's being spoken about. Phase two, when we've gotten past this phase, is read the foreign language transcript and annotate it. So if you're learning French, you are going to take that transcript, which you printed out at this point, you are going to tear it up with annotations. You're going to underline what you don't know, you're going to translate what you don't know to the point where you could read that section you just listened to and you are understanding everything that's being spoken there, right? You've memorized all the phrases, the words that you need to know. I have other content about memorization. That's not what we're talking about right now. So annotate that French transcript. Next, I want you to shadow the audio. Shadowing is this other concept in language learning where you mimic, like a boxer does when you shadow boxes, you mimic what is being spoken. And I want you to do that as many times until your imitation of the audio is flawless and effortless. Okay, so if you hear on the audio, Salut étudiants et tous, je m'appelle Patrick, you should be able to say, Salut étudiants et tous, je suis Patrick, or je m'appelle Patrick, whatever I just said. The point is, you need to be able to imitate it and sound like a French person until your imitation is flawless and you are totally comfortable with the French audio and you understand it. That's going to take a lot of listens, potentially dozens, but this is how we become a fluent speaker of a foreign language. So, phase three of studying is I want you to break out that English transcript, that third piece of material that we've prepared for our studies. And I want you to go from the English to the French. So, if you see in the English, my name is Patrick, and et cetera. I am an American. Je m'appelle Patrick, moi c'est Patrick, et je suis américain, et cetera, et cetera. You should be able to go from the English to the French without a problem. So this is triggering what we call active recall, and it's extremely helpful in memorizing, all of these vocabulary words you need for a foreign language. Now, phase four of studying is entirely optional, but I find it extremely helpful. What I call manipulation. Can you manipulate the verbs, the nouns, etc., in a sentence with ease? Could you put a verb in a different tense? Could you put a verb in the subjunctive? Could you turn a noun from the singular to the plural, etc., that sort of thing? So that really can test your mastery of the content and not making sure you're not simply memorizing it. Okay, so those are the four phases of studying, and when you've gone through that fourth phase and you're totally sorry, I have a runny nose. When you're totally comfortable with that chunk that you're gone through in the podcast, go back to phase one. Okay, go to the next chunk and the next chunk and the next chunk until you have totally mastered the entire 20-minute transcript and you can comfortably understand everything that's going on. You could comfortably read it and translate it. You could comfortably shadow and imitate the audio. You could go from the English transcript and spit it out in French. And not only that, but you could manipulate the French and put it in a totally different tense. You could basically use that word now in any context you would like. If you do this for 30 minutes a day, I'm telling you, you will absolutely advance. The reason most people don't do this 30 minutes a day is because they get bored very easily. They want the novelty of an app that gives you, a reward for having a streak or something like that. That's not what we're going for. We're going for fluency. So I hope that those of you who are pretty, earnest in your studies are going to take advantage of this. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to, drop them in the comments below. Thank you very much. Cheers.